Happy Friday afternoon. This is Jim with the Brewers Association of Maryland. Sorry for the late start time today. Our guest today had some scheduling issues a little bit earlier, but I am so happy that we're able to connect with you all this afternoon. This is going to be a really, really cool time. The Brewers Association of Maryland is very fortunate. We have dozens and dozens of great breweries across the state. We have all these wonderful small businesses that are participating in making this state a destination for craft beer lovers. But we also have some really, really sneaky businesses in this organization. We've got some really fantastic mead makers kind of popping up on the scene, showing us what mead is all about, and kind of drawing that intersection between craft beer and mead and kind of this whole experience of craft beverages. So we're really excited today to be joined by Brett at the Buzz Meadery in Berlin. Give me just a few minutes to run through some housekeeping. We'll get Brett on, and we'll talk all about this great business. First note is that some jurisdictions in the state have decided to add some new restrictions regarding COVID. So please pay attention to what's going on local to you or local to your favorite brewery. There are some things happening with indoor dining, indoor drinking, and outdoor drinking, on-premise, off-premise. Each jurisdiction has a couple of new little details. So reach out to your local brewery, ask them what's going on. Ask what their policies are and how they're dealing with everything, and go out and show your support. Wear your mask, stay 6 feet away from people, and please do what you can to support these great small businesses. If you need any updates or any other information from us, marylandbeer.org is where you'll want to check. If we have any great announcements about anything or anything big happens, we'll also put it on our Facebook page, Instagram, and we'll probably make a video or something for YouTube. So keep an eye out there. I hope everybody is ready for a great weekend. The weather's supposed to be lovely. Let's get Brett on and let's talk about mead. Brett, how you doing?
Hey, doing good.
I'm really excited to have you on today. Right before we started, I told you I don't know much about mead, so I'm really thrilled to have an expert on and somebody who can tell me all about this exciting ancient beverage.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to be here, and I'm in the shop now, so we're working in the back, and we only have about 800 square feet, so you'll probably hear some noises and some things in the background while we're working, and that's kind of how it is around here. So,
if you're tuning in live right now, we would love to have you be a part of the conversation. Shoot any questions you have about mead, any comments about meads you may have tried, or any of the meads coming out of the Buzz Meadery, and we'll try to get you into the stream. We love to have your participation. So, Brett, right off the bat, who are you and what are you doing?
Yeah, so we're the Buzz Meadery. I just opened up in June, and we're located on Maryland's Eastern Shore. So located in Berlin, Maryland, America's coolest small town. And we've been in business now just the second half of this year. And we are making a mead that is on the carbonated side, and it's sourced all from the Eastern Shore as far as all the honey and all the fruit and fermentables go, which is really, really cool. So not only are we making stuff and distributing it locally, but we're sourcing like 99% of the inputs locally as well. So it's really fun. We brew seasonally, of course. So, this summer was amazing with all of starting with the strawberries and moving into blueberries, blackberries, peaches was the huge favorite of the peach mead of the year. It was about 6.5% and super tasty, really light. The stuff I make is on the lighter end of mead because it's carbonated and I make it about half the alcohol. Boy, it's just really refreshing, really crisp, and made to be sessionable. So that's kind of my 30-second shot of what I've been making.
That was a great elevator pitch, man.
There we go.
So the quaffability of mead seems to be something that I don't know a lot of people truly appreciate. I have always had this experience with mead in the past where it's this thick, heavy drink, and it wouldn't be something that I'd want to sit down and necessarily drink one after another. So you're trying to break that mold and offer the consumer something that they want to sit and enjoy more than one of.
100%. So this is essentially what I'm doing is pretty much a equivalent to like a cider. If you think of how it drinks, it's naturally gluten-free like a cider is. Obviously my fermentable is honey, but I'm fermenting a lot of it out. So most of my stuff, we don't even really, back sweetened that much comparatively. So you just have the essence of the flavor. Like it's such an interesting to compete in this because, this is when all the craft breweries are coming out with these super thick, pulpy, dessert beers. And here I am on the other end of the spectrum where I'm like, whoa, you got the flavor, but it's light. So it's made to be sessionable. It's a treat when we get it because we're getting the fruit and we're hand pressing it all in house. So we're not buying like, other types of, prepared stuff. So it's all fresh in here. Hey, I'm going to transition to the back of the house here.
Sure.
I got some people coming in.
Great.
Sam, you're up.
And while you do that, I'll start asking a question
Hey guys,
as your background soundtrack. So I've always understood that mead is a product of fermented honey and water, probably to help kind of thin it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Are you using the fruit as fermentable also?
Oh, yeah. So
you're doing a mixed fermentation of both fruit and honey?
Yeah, so depending on the recipe, that's how I do it. So I do a couple of things. So my base, like the three that I make a lot, I pretty much make the same base with my honey and just, making it really, as light as I can. And so that would be like my honeycomber. And then the next one I do with the same base is like my coffee one. I do a coffee one. So I obviously don't ferment the coffee and I just add it at the end. But yeah, sometimes, so I have the cider going right now, and this guy right there is an apple cider, and I just had over in the one in the corner was a sizer, so half honey, half apples from a local orchard that we pressed right here. And boy, when we press the fruit, it smells amazing in this place. It's so tiny.
I'm sure, especially in a square footage footprint of only 800 square feet, you probably get all of the great aromatics.
That's right. Here, so you can just see everything. So this is the back of the house, and my building is pretty much split by this dividing wall.
Nice.
Tap house right there.
That's great.
Super, super tiny, straightforward. And then on this back end, I've got my walk-in cooler, which we just tap right into my walk-in cooler is our taps.
Well, I appreciate the virtual tour. In most places, we don't get that luxury because it's either too loud or too expensive for somebody to get Wi-Fi. But right there, man, you do a little spin around and we get the whole deal.
It's, I was trying to see what would be the easiest for me.
I think I like it. So I'm really curious. You said that you're working with local growers and producers to get all of your products. Was that a goal that you had going into opening the business, or was that something that was just convenient and easy and you knew that it would make a great product?
Oh, no, it was 100% by design. So I knew I've always known, like all of us, I had a dream of opening my own alcohol establishment, whether it be a bar or a pub to a brewery once I started home brewing. And I really just wasn't sure how I was going to compete on the home brew or on the brewing side. Not only insofar as recipe uniqueness, but the way that I saw recipe uniqueness coming was through the things that I'm personally passionate about, which is, regional and sustainable regenerative agriculture. And so I love beer. I'm a big craft beer advocate, and I love it. But that's what inspired me to do the mead, was because I really just needed to create something that I personally needed that I was drinking more. And I found that through this low alcohol, sessionable carbonated mead, because I could source my supply chain literally from honey hive to, everything else, all the fruits and adjuncts we add. So that's been by design from the beginning. And it's been our backbone of our marketing plan for, obviously number one goal, it's got to taste good, because people just aren't going to drink it if it doesn't taste good. So we focus on that first. And then we push the education of, oh, by the way, when we say local, I don't just mean I make it here and everything's from 1,000 miles away. I mean, I source it here too. And in fact, on the back of every bottle, I put exactly who the farmers are and where they're located on the Eastern Shore. So,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So our definition of local is not the USDA's 400 miles. It's the peninsula. And as you know, in Maryland, like we include some Delaware in there, but
sure, but it's still local.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly. Yep.
I'm trying to look it up right now, but I know that we shared an article about your commitment to having a positive impact on the environment.
Yeah.
Last week. Can you tell us a little bit about that story and why that was big news for you guys to help share? WMDT shared their Live Green feature on you guys.
Yeah, so that just aired, and we were really thankful when Sloan reached out to us to have us on their Tuesday show. I was in another life. I was an ag teacher. I taught agriculture, and I always taught my students that being in the more connected you are to who grows your food and to who's buying it, the more empowered your community can be. And, I taught that for nearly 4 years, and I just, I needed to express that in another form of my life, which is through entrepreneurship and through business, because that was my main message to my students was that, look, it's great to have all these ideologies and at best spend your dollar as a vote on the products that are sustainable in your eye, but even better, in conjunction with that, start your own businesses that manifest that environmentalism. And for me, it came on a time where I was sitting there, I was drinking a beer. I was like, man, this is there's so many inputs that it takes to do this. It's okay that exists. That's okay. However, for me personally, if I'm going to continue being a responsible consumer of alcohol, that also extends beyond my own counting of how many I've had, and also in the ingredients of what it takes to produce that. So I was like, man, if I can just start making my own more of it and then sourcing it and then do that for my community, it'll just be a little greener and we can all drink alcohol a little more guilt-free. That's kind of how I tricked myself.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
That's how I thought about it. So
I think that's a really cool story. And I really like the fact that this is born out of you really wanting to put your lesson into action. It's one thing to do as I say, but it's another thing to do as you do, right? So
that's exactly right. That's
a pretty cool way to lead by example. And it's great that we have families like yours who are willing to do this on such a, on a startup scale and hopefully grow and show your community what's possible. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's right. And you can see, I mean, those are my tanks. So those are for all you home brewers out there and brewers. These are 2-barrel each. So 4 kegs, essentially. We pretty much bottle everything in 22-ounce bottles, but we do use we put them in sixtels. So I'll maybe do 2 to 3 sixtels off of each one, sell that in the tap house, and for the small amount of people foot traffic we get from our location that's not really centrally located, that lasts us, plenty of time before we re-up with new rounds. And I've got 6 of them. So at any given time, 5 are full. One's always open for transfers. And also, Jim, the other reason I went for mead is, man, knowing that I'm not going to have that much money to start this thing, by making mead versus beer, I save I don't want to say half, but 30% of the investment. And on the hot side, I don't have a boil kettle. I don't have a hot liquor tank. I have another way to get hot water. That's 180, but it's not a big HLT. It's more efficient than that. I don't have the all that stuff, mash tun or whatever. So
yeah, it's
just fermenters, and I did unit tanks. So each one can hold pressure, so I can carbonate in any given one. It's more efficient. In ag, I was studying efficient methods of urban agriculture and market gardens, and it really got me thinking of efficiency. And I was like, boy, I've got 2 kids, I've got a full-time job, I still teach high school, I'm a shop teacher now, and doing this. I was like, if I'm back here doing this and going to convince my wife to go all in, we got to be as efficient and thought out as possible. So we went with mead, with unit tanks, and just local community. And then COVID hit, and we were like, whoa.
What a time to open a business.
Yeah. And we were like, boy, I'm sure glad we started small, and I'm sure glad we know our suppliers, and we don't need to produce that. that much to stay this whole operation to stay afloat. So
I was going to ask at the beginning if you were a teacher. I just had this sense because you were so good at figuring out where on the screen everything was behind you. I'm like, he's been pointing at a chalkboard before in his life. I know that.
I'm on Zoom like 8 hours a day now. Yeah.
You had it all figured out. I'm like, everybody else is trying to figure out where they are on the screen.
That's right.
So let me ask you just a little bit about drinking mead as an experience. So,
Sure.
A lot of people have started to truly appreciate the composition of beer and kind of how beer is produced, how it's made. The understanding is a little bit more out there in the world. I think people who are fans of craft beer really kind of get the gist of how you make it from grain all the way out to glass. They understand the inputs: hops, water, yeast, malt. Can you kind of walk through what those inputs look like, what that fermentation process looks like, and what you need to do to get it into the glass for people?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the simplest of recipes that I make, I call it my honeycomber. It's just honey, no other fruit or adjuncts. And that one, and is part of that efficiency thing. So I start with my honey, and I use raw, unpasteurized honey. And so I need to make sure I have a strong yeast culture ready to go, commercial yeast, obviously. And the same as you would do preparing one for a batch of beer. And since I'm already starting with my fermentable sugar, I'm essentially skipping the whole mashing process and the whole boiling process. So I'm taking that honey, I'm filling my fermenter up with appropriate level of water. I dump in the honey, and I'm constantly stirring it the whole time to make sure that, because it's obviously honey and kind of, coldish water. So it, needs some stirring to do it. I used to do it by hand before I got these pumps, and oh my God, my shoulders are like, oh, this is a horrible idea.
Your chest probably was looking great though, man.
Yeah. And, then basically just ferment it out. So I ferment it in the same kind of time frame as an ale. So that's part of my design by being low alcohol is higher turnover. So everything that I'm doing is intentional. So by making it lower alcohol, I can flip a tank, in 3 weeks or so. It does age well, so if it sits for a couple extra weeks, I mean, every week we taste them, and they taste better every week. So they're young at 24 weeks, but with them being only, 5 to 8%,
got a little room.
Young beer, they can do fine, some of them. So
are there concerns with sterilization or wild inoculation? I noticed you said you don't do a boil, so I'm guessing that you're not knocking out the sterilization process with just 180-degree water. So how does that all work out?
Yeah, so I think that was this trip or something. Yeah, so being very careful, just making sure that I have my yeast starter at the appropriate level, making sure that I've got enough yeast cells propagated up and that they have the appropriate nutrients ready to go. One thing to be mindful of that, different than making beer, where in commercial breweries, typically they'll make nutrient additions and things because they're more tuned into the exact chemistry. But as home brewers, I can't think of any time where I really made any nutrient additions during fermentation. So that's the one main mechanical difference, going back to your previous question. But it plays into this one as far as making the yeast are happy to outcompete those other wild yeast and bacteria and things from the raw honey. So during this first up through about a third of the sugar being consumed, I'm constantly monitoring the gravity, because that's and making nutrient adjustments on a particular schedule for that recipe. So that way the yeast, the honey is such a more simpler sugar than the grain is, which has a lot of these extra nutrients that the raw honey doesn't have. So
got it.
My biggest thing is a tight nutrient schedule, and if I can keep that good and start with a good yeast culture, and that's good. And I got to do a lot of stirring too through that first bit. So if I can keep that happy and keep my main yeast propagating, I don't have to worry about. I'll have the crispest, cleanest meads there are.
That's awesome. I come from a background in the brewing industry, and I'm always so concerned with contamination and all those beer
Right.
sprinklers and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting to hear that the approach maybe not be more lax, but it provides you a little bit more freedom where you don't necessarily have to have those concerns as long as you're maintaining certain things.
That's exactly right, and especially because I'm hoping that these get consumed, in the first 3 months after being produced. I mean, I'm not making that many, and I'm putting on the bottle, don't age them. Like I'm hoping people drink them sooner rather than later. I'm not aging them like a fine wine for years. So if I was going to be giving this, a long-term shot, I would look at different options of sterilization, but I'd rather be more simple about it.
What is the advantage you're finding with the non-pasteurized honey? You pointed that out as though it was a point to make. So I'm curious what that imparts in your product.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that there's benefit to having those little wild intricacies. I think it gives it some roundness, and even if it's super, super subtle, as if just very minor that the everyday person wouldn't be able to tell, but like us who are drinking it often can pick up. I think it gives the mead some character versus just a single. Certain yeast are great at expressing certain characters and flavor profiles, and for what I'm doing, I just think that it's such a thin product anyways, because it's gluten-free, that I think any flavors I can get out of the yeast are to a benefit.
Are there any distinct changes? I know you're probably sourcing all of your fruit in the summer or early fall, but when you're looking at honey, are you able to harvest that throughout the year?
So I don't have my own bees, and so I have a network of farmers, beekeepers, and as of right now, my main guy has been able to keep me up, and so. I'm not gonna let the floor play. Sorry, we're hearing water dripping back here.
Everybody's getting worried. It's not me. Don't worry.
We thought it was, but I don't think so. Yeah, so my one guy is able to keep me. He has hives all across the Eastern Shore, and yeah, he's able to supply me. And we're using a lot compared to a normal person would use in honey, but insofar as it being like these huge tanks, I basically go through just about 2 5-gallon buckets of honey, so about 120 pounds of honey per fermenter, and roughly give or take, depending on the recipe and things like that. But so it's a lot of honey, but from what I've been told, I would love to hear from your audience, if anybody's beekeepers out there, how much honey one hive can give. And I know that's super dependent on the year and the flowers and the population of the bees in the hives and the weather. So anyways, I've been told that 1 5-gallon bucket could be like a really good year for a really good hive. So thinking about it, that I go through about 10 hives a month, I guess. I don't really know.
Well, that's pretty cool. I'm mostly asking about the seasonability and your ability to get it throughout the year, because I'm wondering whether or not, as a consumer, I would notice changes in the flavor profile of the honey as the year progresses.
I see. Yeah. So actually, that's a really good question now that I know more. Yeah. So I only use wildflower honey. That doesn't mean it's like a prairie of like wildflowers around, but it does mean, exactly as you said, that the flavor of the honey will slightly change as the combination of flowers and blossoms change throughout the year. So I would love to know if, as a consumer, you would be able to notice those changes. If I start having that type of dialogue, that would be awesome.
I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It
changes from the early spring honey was so much darker from all the tree blossoms to now it's a lot lighter and more caramelly. And so we in the house, we noticed it tremendously. So I would love to see customers, try it out and see.
I think that would make for a great tasting experience too, to be able to taste like a late season and an early, whatever it might be, just the opportunity to truly kind of expand on what you're learning about this great drink as you're tasting it at a tasting room bar or taking it home.
Yeah, exactly.
So you guys started operating in June. What are the ambitions for the next couple of months, next couple of years? What do you guys see on the horizon?
I have some big dreams with this. I didn't start this because I didn't see the potential value it could have for not only this community, but other communities. But I am really just hoping that we are able to stay in business. And I don't say that to get sympathy. I mean, literally I planned this, and when we went through it, obviously we didn't have the restrictions we did now. We were obviously undercapitalized. So my working capital is pretty much doesn't extend as far into the future as I would like it to. And now that it's December and our tap room seats, at best, it sat 14 people before COVID, but we weren't even open to know what that would look like because we opened in June. We were in this space April 15th, and we had to sign the lease in, January of this year. So it wasn't even COVID wasn't even we didn't know. But anyway, and we're outside of town because it was the most affordable rent we could get. And so we get very little foot traffic. And so we were relying on farmers markets and other types of vendors like that have obviously were seasonal. So we had a great showing in the summer and fall, but now that most of those markets have closed, or the ones that are open have significantly reduced the number of people venturing out, either because of the cold or through COVID concerns. Jim, I'm just happy to have started. And, I'm going to tell my kids one day that hey, I have no idea. I'm telling you totally truth right now. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I'm glad I tried. And I hope other people who have dreams and ideas of things that they're truly passionate about, like I am for this, I hope they try. And even if they fail, it's not a reflection of you as an individual or person. I play a part of this, obviously, but there are extenuating circumstances outside of my control. So, man, if this works, I'd like to get a bigger space, get some floor drains, as you brewers would know what I'm talking about, and employ a couple more people. Right now, I got one guy working for me while I'm at teaching school. He's here, doing the hard work basically now for me. And I'm hoping to just keep promoting our local farmers, more business through people reading our labels and stuff. And we've already gotten some feedback about that, which is super cool because they're my friends too. And that's the idea is that the Buzz Meadery exists in every city across every region and not owned by us. You at home who like to make mead, go do this. I'm showing you right now, you can do this for a little, it's not a little bit of money. I had to save up my butt off for years to do this, but it can be done. And I'm a school teacher. I don't make that much money. I save. Everybody at home, you can do this. We need to protect the bees because they're important to the rest of our survival. So this is if there was a business, I've started a couple things, none of them have been successful, like farm agricultural businesses. I had fun, but they didn't have the potential this has. And, if there's an example of a business I could have started that has the potential to really tie all these dots that I care about together, it's this one. And I know other people think like me too. So hopefully other people where they live with their friends of farmers will start the same thing in their own unique style. And I don't know.
I have to say, man, that is one of the most positive and rejuvenating responses to a question I've gotten in a lot of months. So I really appreciate that. I needed to hear that kind of passion and that kind of that positivity for the future outlook. That's great stuff. You just made my day.
So we got to do it, man.
I definitely think that you guys are doing something really cool out there. You're in an area that's growing. Craft beverage manufacturers are kind of popping up around you. You've had 2 or 3 others open over the summer. I know you've got another in planning right around the corner from you guys. You've got some really cool things happening out there. What do you see as a mead maker kind of in a community with some breweries in it? Do you see that there's a lot of opportunity to collaborate with your peers and maybe find some cool ways to cross-promote?
Absolutely. Yeah. So first off, we've had great relations with everybody around here. So Burley Oak is our closest neighbor. They have been amazing to us, and not only just in mentoring with, how things work. And I'm in some cases asking silly questions that, Adam, the head brewer, he used to be my neighbor, actually. We would both be mowing the grass, at the same time. And this was before, before everything. And it's so funny seeing that we're both, he's been in the industry for a while as well, but how we both come full circle here. And giving me good pointers. And I ran out of bottle caps the other day, because I'm buying them on, not in bulk. And I called up Burley Oak, and they're like, hey, come on over, pick some up. So they've been really, really cool. And Cinnapuxent Brewing over the ones in, on Astique Road who are in planning, just opening. They have been great as well. And they've been here a couple times, Joe. And the owner, Paul, is really cool. And so I'm finding that, we're fitting right in. And it's so funny because everybody's got the same. I get three things. Either A, I've had mead, but it's, and then they've had it either from Ireland or the farmer's market. Not the farmer's market, the
the Renaissance Fest.
Thank you. Yes, the Renaissance Fest. And I'm like, that's great, but my mead is nothing like that. So, or they've never heard of mead. And either way, I'm like, whether you've had it or you haven't, you've never drank anything like this, because it drinks like a beer, but it's more like a cider because it's naturally gluten-free. It's full of flavor, but it's really light. And so the breweries have kind of like been really surprised. People don't know what to think of me. They're like, what are you doing? And you're going through all this work to press all this fruit. Like, that just seems like a lot of work. And I'm like, it is, but it's kind of, it's important.
What about on the statewide level? Do you see yourself trying to reach out to some of the other mead makers? There's Charm City's making great meads in Baltimore. We've got some mead makers out. I live out in Frederick. We've got some folks out that way. Do you see some collaborative opportunities with other mead makers?
I would like to open those opportunities. Yeah. If when those relationships start, and absolutely. You can just tell by, I'm open for all that stuff. We would hope to do that, and to, some simple collaborations I could see is me bringing doing honey from here and getting honey from there. That would be the most simplest, fundamental, like half my honey, half your honey collaboration there is,
Yeah, bring the real flavor of the communities together.
It's exactly, and that's the best part when I drink it. It's a deeper level of connection of what I'm drinking. I feel connected to it in so many levels, and I would love to do collaborations with other people like that. If you allow it to be a deep experience, this is as full as it can be,
Well, that's awesome. For people that want to come out and see you, what are you guys doing right now during this whole COVID craziness? How can they support you?
Yes, great question. Thank you for asking. So we are open during the week at our tap house, Monday through Friday, for carryout. There'll be somebody working here during the daytime hours, nothing specific, but, definitely noon to 4, somebody will definitely be here. And then Friday, Saturday, Sundays, when I'm off work, I come back to work here, and we have the tap room open. So when we bump out to the parking lot, and so it's a beautiful asphalt view, chain link fence. It's like primo.
That sounds wonderful, man. Who would pass out?
Yeah, if you look up, there's blue skies.
That's all that matters, right?
Right. But we are open Friday, Saturday, Sundays for, you can come here and drink. And then my wife and I, we pop up all the time at different events. So we're at the Ocean Pines Farmers Market if you happen to be in town on a Saturday. And we go to other events too. Like we'll be in the town of Berlin tonight for the, I guess this would be the second Friday art walk. And then, you can always, the cool thing for December is now that I've got this guy working with me, we are trying to brew so that way we can have more of our batches released at the same time to make it easier for you guys. So knowing that we don't like to go out that often either, our customers probably might not. So we're trying to do our bottle releases kind of scheduled. So that way, like once a month, we're trying to release like
stacking.
Yeah, stack them. So that way you can buy in bulk. You can buy like half a case, and get, 25% off or whatever whatever it ends up being. And then you can also try lots of things. And then when you want to come out, you're like, all right, I had that. and then go from there. So our website says it all, and you can buy stuff ahead of time on the Bottle Club there for the December 23rd.
And what is your web address so people know where to find you?
Yeah, thebuzzmeadery.com.
That's easy.
Yeah, yep.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat. I know you've got to get going to your art walk. That sounds like a good time. One last thing. All bottles are 22 ounce. Are you guys doing growlers or crowlers or anything?
We are not right now. We're not.
Okay.
Yep, it's on the horizon, but we're just 22 ounces right now.
Very cool. Well, if you're watching this either today or in the next couple of days and you're trying to load up for the holidays, add some mead to your holiday table. Go visit the Buzz Meadery in Berlin, Maryland. Brett, it was great chatting with you. Thank you for your time today.
Hey,
Thanks for giving us a tour of your cool spot. I cannot wait to get out there and see you. And for everybody taking a listen or review, have a pleasant weekend. Be safe. And please show your support to local Maryland breweries, meaderies, and give them your love. They need it more now than ever. So visit us at marylandbeer.org. Check us out online and tune in next week for our episode with Guinness. Brett, have a safe weekend, man. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks. You guys be safe. Thank you.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.